They're probably related. And so I had a good friend.
What? It's almost the exact same texture.
Because we're not related anyway.
Yeah. He's on his way.
Well, okay, so where would I go? Scroll down. Really? So that was another.
Or
It could be a bad thing.
So one of my friends, she had him in there for some, she had this room is literally and you come oh goodness. I was like, oh my gosh. They had these like a little just tiny shower. They didn't have to be like this tiny little box shower. And I was like, I was sitting there,
Yeah.
he's like,
But,
oh gosh. It was so funny. They did not let it
there's probably another one.
Yeah,
I can cash out.
So Ty, there are no. That's a small one.
What?
That's because I listened to it, but not them.
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about the city council one.
No, the city council has a meeting.
Okay.
No, they haven't.
So that's why I'm wondering if it's gonna be upstairs or not. So it's not.
They bought that. Well, the thing that's nice about mine is that I don't have to go back to the agenda. I don't have to go back to the beginning and search.
Right.
And then maybe go past what I was before. So, yeah, all that.
Even if you fixed it, so there's the house. Twist that.
Apologize for being late.
That's okay.
Yeah. You want to tell me when you're ready, Brian?
We're live, okay.
Okay. All right, are you ready, Guy?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the Administrative Land Use Authority meeting. Today is June 16th. It's approximately 2:40 p.m. We're in the Providence City Office Building at 164 North Gateway Drive. I'm Scarlett Bankhead, and I chair this meeting. We have Max Pierce, our city engineer, and then Rob Stapley on my right is our Public Works Director. We have 4 items on our agenda today. Oh, before I go into that, we also have Ryan Snow, our city manager, in attendance, Ty Cameron, our city recorder, Diane Campbell, our zoning office specialist, April Fredrickson, our code compliance and stormwater specialist. And then we have some audience members. So we've got 4 items on our agenda. The first is a conditional use for a pool and a retaining wall. And it says the Providence City Administrative Land Use Authority will consider for approval a request by One LLC for Brian Wrigley for a pool and a retaining wall located at 250 South Sherwood Drive in Providence. And I think we've got Lev support?
Yes.
Okay, if you would like to come up to this table and so you can speak into that mic so that we can get you on the record. And then Diane, if you want to just take a minute and introduce the staff report.
All right, this application was, well, the full application was received June 10th. And Rob inspected the current infrastructure on June 15th. Findings of fact, we look at Utah Code 109A507 for conditional uses, which allows a municipality to adopt a land use ordinance that includes conditional uses and provisions for those uses. We look at the GIS parcel summary, which shows sensitive areas that may require further analysis. We look at Providence City Code 10.5, sensitive areas, which says that all lots that are partial or wholly in a hazard area, a hazard flood, slope, water, earthquake, wildfire area, all those need to be dealt with a conditional use permit. Providence City Code 10.3.5 allows the city to impose reasonable conditions to mitigate any detrimental effects of those hazard areas. Conclusions of law. Providence City has adopted land use ordinances that include conditional uses and provisions for conditional uses. The GIS parcel summary indicates that this parcel is in steep slope and wildfire hazard areas. Providence City has the authority to impose reasonable conditions to mitigate the anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use, and the request meets the requirements of the codes listed in the findings of fact with the following conditions. The applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, and Providence City rules, laws, codes, and ordinances. The applicant will mitigate slopes with the construction of the retaining wall, and in your packet there's the plans for the retaining wall on there. The current slope, it says there's 30% slope on the lot, but he measured it at 16%. Aaron Walker did not do a review. He said that it's not necessary for a pool and a retaining wall. The applicant will meet all requirements listed in Providence City Code 547 for swimming pools. The conditional uses for the pool only as shown in site plan date stamped. Pool, actually that should say pool and retaining wall, as shown on the site plan date stamped June 10th, 2021. And approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, Lil, I've got some questions because we've got some conflicting information going on. So in your written statement, you're asking for a retaining wall for a future pool house area, swimming pool, and spa.
Possibly, yes.
Possibly what? Possibly, what are we really approving today, or looking at today? Just the retaining
Pool and
wall?
retaining wall.
So no spa?
No spa, yeah. Oh, spa as far as with the building, or just any spa in there?
Whatever spa you were talking about.
Are they referring to an underground spa or an above ground future add-on?
Is it attached to the swimming pool?
Oh, not attached to the swimming pool, no, not attached. But there will be a spa, yes.
That you're building right now when you build this pool?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the other thing, in our packet, we have a hand-drawn sketch which has some dimensions on it. And
Sounds familiar.
Yep, that's mine. Beautiful artwork.
okay, And what's this one?
That is the landscape rendition of, that was a layout guide for us. I mean, that's kind of the general idea of what he wants, but right now it's just a pool and retaining wall.
Okay. Because the concern that I have is that the dimensions don't match. They're really way off. Where you have 61 feet, Rob and I were trying to actually even make the illustration work, and it doesn't exactly.
Property lines are what causes you to wonder which way is up. And you can kind of take the overall figure, the shape of the structure of the future pool and spa, and line it up with the property lines as shown, which are what's dimensioned from, don't line up between the two pictures.
So my drawing is an accurate measurement. That's where all the measurements are accurate. The landscape architect's drawing is just a concept design.
Okay, so you're telling me that the north side of the retaining wall, the northwest side of the retaining wall is 61 feet away from the property line.
Just look at the documents on my phone real quick.
It looks like it starts 20 feet from the
Can we
house.
pull it up on the TV up there so that we can have him make sure he's seeing the same thing we're seeing?
Yeah, so that's 61 from the back of that wall to that property lines.
And then you measured the slope.
Yes.
You're at 19.8.
I think it's 15.9.
15.8. That's probably a 5. It does look like a 9 a little bit, but it's probably a 5. And then the east corner of the retaining wall, the northeast corner of the retaining wall, that's 110 feet from the property line.
Yes.
And it doesn't, and it doesn't go up into the point at all like it did on this illustration, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean, it's kind of all flat land above, right where it says retaining wall, the lot kind of flattens out. We're all below that.
Okay.
So those lines are perpendicular from the property line, those measurements.
Okay. All right. Max, did you look at the information on the retaining wall?
Mhm.
Do you have any concerns with it?
No.
Okay. Rob, do you have any concerns?
No, I do not.
So, I have a couple of things that I just want to go over because they're not showing on the site plan. So these are actually more of a zoning thing than they are conditional use. But since they're not showing on the site plan, I want to make sure we're on the same page with everything.
Okay.
So a private swimming pool is a permitted use in a single-family traditional district. It says swimming pools and spas require an adequate closure around them. In lieu of fences, spas may have a lockable cover. Is this the dimensions of the pool, the 22 by 44? Is that the pool or is that the fence?
That's the pool, that's the surface area of the water.
Okay, and so then you're going to do a fence around that?
He's asked about fences, but we install star covers that are blocky covers on all our pools.
Okay, we don't allow those.
Okay, so he needs a fence.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably an ordinance change we should consider, but nobody has asked us to consider it. And right now, our code requires a fence.
Okay, I'll
So,
let him know.
Just for my clarification, Skylar, when you say you don't allow them, you'll allow the cover, but you still have to have a fence. Is
Yeah.
that true?
yes, yeah, that's better. I shouldn't say we don't allow them. They can't substitute on a spa. They can substitute the lockable cover can substitute for the fence, but on a pool they can't substitute for the fence. The way our code is written,
Is there a weight rating built into that code?
150 pounds. A lockable cover which is capable of supporting a minimum of 150 pounds.
So if we have a secondary cover that shows that, I know the cover star isn't rated for that, but if we have a secondary lockable cover that is rated for that, that will work in lieu of a fence.
Not on the spa, but not on the.
Oh, the 150 pounds is just the spa. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a minimum of 150 pounds, so, okay. So I just wanted to go over a few of those zoning things, so we, then on the retaining wall, we have to use the same setbacks we would for a house. And if it's because our code says rear and non-street side setbacks for a retaining wall greater than 6 feet in height. And if I'm reading this correctly, yours is 9 feet from the ground up. It's actually
10 feet.
well, I thought it was.
The 10 is off the footing, correct?
Yeah, footing here, 10.4 off the footing.
So it'd be 8'4" above ground.
Doesn't it say above ground and isn't the dimension 9 feet? But I'll scoot to my own. Because it says final grade
Final grade, 9 feet.
to the top of the wall, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually, and then you've got
16.
3 feet, so it's actually like 12, 13 and a half or something like that, from the very bottom to the very top.
Okay.
Is that how you read that plan, Max?
Yep.
Okay, so regardless, it's over 6 feet. So they're subject to the same requirements as a main structure. And so they have to meet, which you exceed them, so you're fine, but just for the record, because you get a little closer on this other one, so that's why I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. An interior side yard is, you have to be 10 feet off on the side yards, the interior ones, and you have to be 15 feet from the rear yard, which the rear yard is fine, but on these are showing 20, but that's such a big change from 61 that I just wanted to make sure that we've got some accurate numbers somewhere.
You mean the landscape architects?
Yeah.
Concept plan? Yeah, that's not to scale, or it's just a concept plan.
Okay, all right. So those are the additional things that I wanted to mention as far as the zoning goes.
Okay.
And then, so what we're approving right now is the wall and the pool and the spa.
Yes.
And the spa, on your drawing, it kind of looks like the spa's attached to the pool, but is there a space?
There is. There's about probably, I think we have a 24-inch difference between the two.
Okay. All right.
They're not physically attached as far as the distance. Does that change anything here?
No, I'm just trying to make sure that when the building department or somebody looks at this, they understand, because they're going to say, well, you're not building what you told Providence City you were building, because it's going to look like the spa is attached to the pool, or at least right next to it.
Yeah, and I didn't know exactly how that works. I mean, we kind of changed that based on their request, the homeowner's request, but we never attached the two. You can't really do that in Northern Utah with the cover.
Okay.
For a spillover situation.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we probably, Diane, you need to make a note on this site plan, so that when the building department gets it, they'll know that there's that change. if the homeowner has an appropriate fence that goes around the perimeter of this property that secures that whole backyard area, we wouldn't make them put in another fence as long as that perimeter fence met with the self-locking gate. Excuse me, my allergies have kicked in this afternoon. So with that self-locking gate and stuff that our code requires.
Of course, they do not have a fence right now.
Okay, all right. So even though you're putting a cover on it, which is a great idea, we're still going to have to require a fence under our code right now. Okay. Does anyone else, do you have any other questions?
How does that work with fencing? I mean, is it something that I need that in this permit, or?
No, we don't require a permit for fences. We do require that you build it to the code, but we don't require you to get a permit for
I
it.
mean, I obviously won't personally do the fence, but we'll set that up and arrange that.
Yeah, okay.
You'll just want to have them look at our code for fencing to make sure they follow those guidelines.
Because and it's under, the fencing regulations have a little section on swimming pools.
Additional requirements.
Within it, yeah, which talks about like the locking gate, that type of thing. So if you'll just have them look there. Ryan or April or Diana, is there anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. And did we get all your questions answered?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I have my questions answered then. So,
We pretty well spoke to everything related to the slope hazard, but we didn't bring up any of the wildfire.
other than in the staff report, because this is a pool, Aaron Walker, our deputy fire marshal and inspector, said he did not need to do a review on this one. So,
Is there things I should know going forward on any sort of structure we do build inside, in between that pool spot?
well, that was one of the reasons why, because Aaron only looked at this for the retaining wall and the pool, but you, on your application, you said a pool house. Now, it depends how you're going to use the pool house. If it's just kind of if it's just a little locker room, then I don't, and it's not, you're not sleeping in there or anything, then I'm not sure what Aaron will say on that, but the requirements I don't think are as strict. But if it's an actual, like we've got one coming in they're calling it, well, now they're calling it something different, but it was going to be the pool house, but now it's an actual, it's got accessory dwelling unit almost written all over it. And so if your pool house turns into something like that, then more of that wildland fire code may kick in if you're going to have somebody in there with sleeping quarters. So
from our discussions, there's nothing like that coming up. It's more of a covered outdoor kitchen area, lounge area that's maybe walled on 1 to 3 sides, but totally open. The only closed sections would be a possible bathroom and our mechanical room. And again, this is down the road. This is something that he added.
So the better thing to do, rather than me trying to second guess, the better thing to do would be to give Aaron Walker a call at Logan City Fire and just chat with him about what you think might be coming down the pipe. The reason why I kind of want to make that distinction is because since that's not shown on here, if they do decide to go down that route again, then you'll have to come back and see us for another conditional use. So, okay. At that point in time, and I doubt they would make it so big because they've got quite a big backyard, but one of the things that kicks into play is that you can only have no more than 20, all of your accessory buildings together. So not just the ones we're talking about right now. If they happen to have some other detached garage or small accessory building back there in the backyard, all of this stuff together, the pool, the spa, the buildings, can't take up more than 25% of the backyard. Okay. So that might limit what they do with their pool house as well.
Okay, that's good to know.
So, so anyway, that's just some zoning stuff. Not so much with the conditional use, but there's zoning things that I want you to be aware of. all that being said, I'd entertain a motion to approve the request for a retaining wall, a pool, and a spa, based on the site plan, the hand-drawn site plan submitted and date stamped June 10th. And was there something else that we needed to say on that? Oh, and that the spa is detached from the pool. There is a space between the spa and the pool. Based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions that was in the staff report, unless there's something else somebody else wants to add to it? Okay.
That should be fine, I'll make that very motion.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Motion by Rob Stapley, second by Max Pierce. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the voting was unanimous. So, Diane will make some corrections to that, and give you a call, and then we can get you on your way to the building department.
Thank you very much.
All right, and thanks for your time and your clarification. Okay, the next three are all applications from Visionary Homes.
Just our standing Wednesday date, guys.
Yes. So, but I'm gonna kind of be a pill. And maybe, well, first of all, I'll go through the whole 9 yards. So Visionary Homes has a request for 3 conditional use. One is for a townhome building located at 533 through 549 North, 100 East in Providence. It's called Vineyard Building 11. And then 2 are for condominiums. One of the condominium buildings is located at 115 East, 550 North, called Vineyard Building C. And the other condominium building is located at 536 North, 130 East, and that's Vineyard Building E. So, Diane, if you want to introduce them with the staff report.
All right. The applications were submitted June 4th and June 11th, and Rob Stapley inspected the infrastructure. It should say June 15th on all of those, not the 14th. Findings of facts are the same as the previous item on the agenda. Conclusions of law, the only difference is this parcel. These parcels are in a hazard water table area. The applicant will mitigate the hazard water table by, and there's the regular statement, the high water mitigating strategies statement that they've sent in. The conditional use, there's townhomes, let's see, there's site plans. I don't always get a site plan, so I've date stamped the plat map that shows the building on there. And
I just want to clarify, the site plan is just a zoomed in screenshot of the plat. So there shouldn't be any difference
really no
between
site
the
plan.
site plan and just, that's what I've been given.
And then the approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. And that should be it on all of those,
Okay.
except for what you want to bring up.
Okay. So, since when I went back to look to see what we had approved when we approved the subdivision versus what you're putting in our packets now, it's kind of confusing actually, because you're referencing some of the stuff some of it doesn't look at all like the original subdivision that came in with the preliminary plats that was approved. I mean, they don't look like that original one that was done back in 2019.
Okay.
The buildings don't, or what do you mean?
No,
Okay.
the buildings, the buildings now have a more modernized design to them, more angular. The others had dormers and type look to them.
I know there was two building styles, because I've seen one with the dormers, and I've also seen the angular ones. There was like 2 to 3 different building styles. I was told that was approved.
That's what I'm trying to clarify, is what building styles really were approved. So I went back and looked at them. I do think that when phase 3 came in, the more angular style was approved. But I don't think we got a 5-plex with phase 3. We got a 4-plex, and we got a 6-plex, and we should have had a 5-plex, but because it's showing 5 on the plat, but
Is that one in your hand right there? That's a 5-plex, isn't it?
but this is the one that came in with today's packet.
Oh, I see, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's where I think some of our problem lies, and I think part of it might have been, and I don't know if it was that when we were going through the subdivision process, if for some reason there was a misunderstanding that all that had to be shown was a representation of what you intended to build, just sort of like a placeholder, or if the understanding was there that what you were submitting to get approved is what you would be building.
Well, and I could be wrong. This is my understanding, is that we submitted several different elevation styles, and I don't know that any one elevation style was specific to building with a certain number of units. I mean, it's my understanding, as long as the elevation style is approved, it can be used on a 3-building or a 3-unit building or a 6-unit building, as long as it's the approved style. But that could just be totally me, and I'm misunderstanding something. But that was what I thought the approved elevations meant.
Okay. When it came to what was approved with phase 3, like I said, the angular styles came into play. I think the thing that's difficult is the way the ordinance, there's enough of a difference that someone was able to tell that you were doing something different from what was originally approved and what you built not too long ago.
And it's my understanding that was within the stone, which we've added 30% stone to those buildings. So that does go back to the original elevation style submitted.
Okay.
That's what I was told was the biggest concern, was the stone being added on.
Okay, so what my biggest concern is, or what I need you to do, is I need you to go through whatever was submitted with the subdivision phase 3, 2, and 3. These are in 3, right?
Yes.
These buildings are in 3. So subdivision phase 3.
Okay.
Whatever was submitted with that is what you're supposed to be turning in with this.
Right.
And you're telling me that's what it is?
That's what I was told it is, that these were the approved elevation styles.
Okay. All right. So we'll go over
This hits me really far down the line, and as far as I've been told, the elevation styles and everything have long been approved, and that's when this question about how much stone was being used, by adding that stone back, we did go back to that original style. So, I mean, I'm not involved in the original submissions for the phases. I only see these things when they go to vertical construction. So I've been told by our teams that these are the approved elevations. So if there's been a change since then, I'm totally willing to investigate that. But I can only know what I've been told at this moment, though.
Well, and I was going back through our electronic files, and then Diane pointed out that she had moved some of the electronic files around, and so I didn't have time to actually go through every single electronic file, because we've got to do some homework on our side to make sure that all of our files are in chronological order. So, but here's my theme. We could approve the conditional use if we vote to do that for the high water level. But we've got to verify, Diane will have to take some time and go through, and we've got to verify what came in with what applications, so that we can make sure that when April goes out to look and see what elevation you're building, that you are building the right elevation.
I know I have seen some of the colored renderings that were submitted. I don't know what phase they're submitted, and I'm going to be, to me they look the same as what's on there, but that doesn't mean that they are. I'm not as trained to watch for code, smaller specific code things as like April and you guys are. So I am under the impression I am submitting the right elevations, but 100% if there's an issue there, we do want to get it resolved, you know, before we build a building.
Yes.
Is the preferred option for that.
Yes. So we will do some homework, but I can see where there were some differences.
Okay.
And it may be that from the original preliminary plat, it was changed, and so when the final plat was approved by the planning commission, the new change got approved then, and if that's the case, then that's great.
Okay.
But if the new change came in after that planning commission approval, and it's just something that's coming to us, or maybe it was a version of what the planning commission approved, then we'll have to check on that. But okay. I do apologize, I didn't realize we had another electronic file, and so I didn't have time to actually look through there. But what I did look at, there were a couple of things that were a little different.
Okay.
So, these are all single family attached. One building's a townhomes, 2 buildings are condominiums. So they'll be slab on grade. So we don't have to worry about the groundwater, because that's a mitigation strategy for that area. Is there anything, Max, you or Rob want to comment on?
No, the land drain is still there and still working wonderfully, so slab on grade for townhomes and condos will be just great.
Ryan or April or Diane, anything from you guys?
No, I think you covered the facade, so.
Okay. All right. With all that being said, I would entertain a motion to approve Visionary's request for items number 2, 3, and 4. Item 2 being the townhome building located at 533 through 539 North, 100 East, Vineyard Building 11. Item number 3 would be the condominium building located at 115 East, 550 North, Vineyard Building C. And number 4 would be the condominium building located at 536 North, 130 East, Vineyard Building E. Based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions stated in the staff report. Does that sound like an okay motion to either one of you?
Yep. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So motion by Max Pierce, second by Rob Stapley. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The voting was unanimous, so thank you. And I think, well, I talked to Jeff for a minute yesterday, and I don't want to beat this horse to death, but I think maybe a meeting with Beckett. Is Beckett the vertical person? Barrett.
Just say unless we've hired somebody new, which we really could have done.
You actually, well, there's a new person that's going to work with us on something. Because they introduced themselves to Diane.
They moved me into the back corner of the building now, not up front. So they bring people around, and I'm like, who are you? And they're like, we've met like 3 times. And I'm like, that sounds right.
So anyway, I'll go through our files, but it may be that we're going to end up needing to have a meeting with you and Barrett and Dallas to kind of make sure that your 3 divisions are all on the same page as we. So, okay, does that sound all right?
Yep.
Okay, all righty, thank you. I don't have any other business unless there's something that someone else has that they feel like we ought to add to a future agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion by Rob Stapley, second by Max Pierce. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for your attendance and have